Hey, I'm Steve and this is Washworx. This is going to be our first video. It's an unboxing video. Not my type of thing, but I just recently found myself this week having to decide on what gutter vac to purchase. And there's not an awful lot of videos out there and there's not an awful lot of choice really. It comes down to two major brands. You've got the SkyVac and you've got the GVS systems as well. So ultimately I went for SkyVac. And for me, that's down to one major detail, and that was the suction cutoff cuff or pole. So I'm going to get into the unboxing. In the end, we actually went for the Atom Sonic, and there's a reason for that as well. So I'll talk about that in detail as we go through. Just a couple of accessories. Picked up two filters. It's free postage on orders over €500, so it just made sense to pick up these consumables that I will definitely use. And just a couple of extras these didn't come in the package. So that's your 90-degree pole, or whatever. And this was just another additional head that I thought would come in useful for things like for when you're roof cleaning and you've got an awful lot of mess on the tarp on the ground. I just thought that would be handy for that extra bit of surface area. Handy for pine needles too, but that's not something that we suffer from around these parts, so put those aside. Okay, let's get into it. So I did mention that I went for the Atom Sonic. The reason for that really was two major reasons. Weight is one of them. So I think it's about 17.2, 17.5 kilograms. I was very tempted to go for something like the Nitro, you know, all the way up to one of their top spec. The reason I didn't go for that is obviously there's a weight issue. There's a big difference. I'm a one-man van type business. The other major concern was power. So when it comes to gutter vac systems, you kind of don't want to rely on having to power into the customer's power supply. So with this one, this is a 2800 watt system, which means that I think SkyVac do a 3600 watt generator, and it's under £1,000, so it's kind of a manageable, economical system, weight wise as well. If I want to power the Nitro, which is a it's a higher powered system, I need a higher power generator. I need like a small Honda machine or so, you know, it's almost like another pressure washer in the van, and I just didn't want to go down that route. And I suppose ultimately what pushes you between those two systems, the Atom Sonic and the Nitro, would be the cutoff point between doing commercial work and doing domestic work. So for me, I aim predominantly to do domestic work. My market that's on my doorstep is predominantly domestic work. There is a bit of commercial there, and if I do feel that I'm being pushed into that, or there's a bit more of a business there, I may look at that in the future. But as for now, it's really just you know, on this end of the market, I think this is very overpowered for what I need. So we'll get into it. And I must say actually as well, a huge thank you to Andy from SkyVac Ireland. By the way, this is not endorsed, or this is not a promotional item. I had to pay for this myself, so but a big thanks to Andy, because he actually dropped this off today personally, and I only ordered it I think on Tuesday. I think the order went through Tuesday night. Today is Friday the 4th of April 2025, and it's here, so it was so fast. Okay, couple of bits of reading material. I can see the cases. I'm not going to drag this video on. I just wanted to see what is in the box. I'm curious myself. When you're buying a big item like this, you kind of have a couple of questions. You can look at all the details on the internet, such as specifications, packing list, things like that. But I wanted to see, I wanted to know what exactly is in it. So I know, just from being on the internet and from my research, I know that that's for the hose. That's just a bag for the hose. This is the hose. So it's wrapped around the top. I think the hose is 5 meters in this system. And if I need more, I can purchase more. But as I said, because this is a light system, I may be able to hoist it up and down. 17 kgs is not actually that light for bringing up on ladders, so you can get hoses up to 15 meters. So again, if I need to do that, I can do that. So first impressions, it's quite rigid. It's not metallic, it's more of a plastic with metallic rings. It's exactly what I expected, but it feels a lot more sturdier. That actually feels really good. Maybe I'll take the inside out first. So these are some of the standard heads that come with the vac, and I can see the classic SkyVac head there as well. So we'll take that out in a while. Okay, so I'll put this aside. It doesn't look like 5 meters actually. I'll have to double check that. This, by the way, is the carbon fiber poles, and I went for the 8 meter package, or is that 12 meters? 8 pole package. So just to give me the highest or furthest reachability. So we've got a few extra bits in here. With the Atom Sonic, actually much different to the Nitro, because it's aimed at a more domestic market. You got these internal or floor, sorry about the plane, we're very close to an airfield here, so that's going to keep happening. So those are internal vac heads, which is pretty handy. I don't think I'll be using these very much, but it is handy to have them, and that's the pole for those. We'll get everything out of this box before we lift this out. Okay, it's actually pretty light. It's heavy enough, but I should be able to lift it. Actually, I'll just get the camera here. There's a sign that says stop, look inside, more parts in here. I'll just show you that. I may just keep the box in case I need to send it back, or it could be handy just for storing things in. Normally I'll cut it open, so I'm going to lift it out. Okay, fair bit of weight in it, but manageable. I'm not the strongest person. So it's amazing to see this, because I've only really seen it online, so it's actually here in the flesh. Again, I'm not sure if this was a major selling point for this system, because someone online did say it wasn't that great, but it is nice to be able to separate the dry waste from your wet waste. That's kind of why I was pushing for the Nitro a little bit more. I like the idea of the basket and being able to pull the basket out and empty it. But again, as I said, if I need something a bit more on the commercial end of things, I can always scale up later. This is not a bad start. You know, this is our first vac that I've used vacs in the past, but this is the first one that we've purchased. So we might actually power it up in a little while and have a little bit of a demo. It looks like there's a good bit of a power, good length of power cable on it as well. That's another thing. So most standard extension cables can handle a power rating of up to about 3.1, 3.2 kilowatts, or 3100 watts. This is 2800 watts, so it's under that power rating, which means that most conventional or standard extension leads that I can purchase from Screwfix or anywhere like that is going to be compatible. With the 3600 watt system, the Nitro, you're more into kind of a bit more specialized cabling, and you know, it's going to be a bit more expensive to handle the higher wattage. Or, as I said, you're using a petrol generator to power it. So I think from a commercial perspective, this is going to suit me perfectly. I'm a one-man operation, so this is exactly what I want. I might just take a look at the poles. I also ordered the camera system, but Andy had explained that the camera it's slightly delayed, so that'll be next week, which is absolutely no issue. I'm in no hurry at all. So that's nice. It's a nice bag. I did see this online. I was expecting that. So that seems very, it's actually very light. You'd expect that. Same as a long reach window cleaning pole. You know, all the carbon fiber stuff is pretty light, so that's pretty awesome. Have a look at it. So all the poles seem to be individually wrapped. So this is a brand new system, so you'd expect that. That's a nice touch. Wasn't expecting them to be this light. That is extremely light. That's so light. And I can see already that's the one with the suction cutoff cuff. That's exactly this. This to me was the selling point of this entire system. I have to be honest. Having used these in the past, it's not a showstopper by any means. The ability to be able to cut that off and drop down heavy clumps, for me, it was just yeah, it was a huge part of the selling point for me. So I'm looking forward to using that. So I might just connect all this up. I'm actually doing this in my backyard at home. My gutters, as you can imagine, are very clean. We'll do a demo. I'll stick it up. I think the gutters are pretty clear. But anyway, we'll put it all together and give it a go. Oh, actually, one of the other things. So, it's no big secret that SkyVac have a slightly cheaper brand, which is known as Gutter Sucker. For those that didn't know, some of these models are very, very identical between each brand. There is one called the Bandit, which would have been the Atom Sonic variant in the Gutter Sucker range. For me, it's about 490 euros cheaper to buy that, but it didn't have the blow function. So you can see you've got your inlet here for the hose. This and a couple of other some of their other smaller systems have this blow function where you can actually, instead of sucking, you can blow out into the gutter, which I think could be a handy feature. The Nitro didn't have that. So I found myself in an interesting situation where I was stuck between the Gutter Sucker Bandit and the SkyVac Atom Sonic, and went for the blow feature. Then when I was thinking about scaling up to the Nitro, the fact that the Nitro didn't have the blow feature, I just thought, you know what, I think I'll stick with this one. So it's the right weight. The power at 2800 watts, I think, domestically is apt, more than apt. It's got the blow function. The only other small deficit with this model, but again, because it's in a domestic setting, it's not as big a deal. It's just the smaller wheels, the smaller casters. So I do think you'll find yourself kind of lifting it a bit over certain areas. So this surface, for example, is a perfect example. This is not even. This needs to be regrouted or replaced at some point. So it wouldn't do too well on a surface like this as opposed to the Nitro. But again, you're looking at a commercial scale vac in a domestic setting. It's a little bit of overkill. So ultimately, I'm very happy with this option. So I'm going to power everything up, and we'll take a look and see what it can do. So I've just lifted the head using these two clamps here. It was quite simple. Didn't know whether I could place it down like that or on its side, but I'm pretty sure they've thought about this when it comes to emptying this during a job or after a job, that you'd have to place this down. I doubt it goes on its side. So I think you can see there's a small bit of clearance there between the frame or the guard. This is your suction guard here, which protects the filter. So it comes with a filter and there's a small bit of ground clearance there. So I think that's fine to sit like that while you empty the drum here. So I can also see the waste down there. So I've never seen the inside of this drum. You won't see one online. I didn't see one in any of the online reviews, and I didn't see any of the images online showing the interior of the drum. So that's interesting. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be in terms of draining the waste. I'm not sure if it's a gravity drain or if it works while the system is under vacuum, but that's just a small bit of 10mm gap under there, and it looks to me like it couldn't be a gravity drain. There's no mesh or sieve in front of it, so somebody did point out online that it wasn't that effective, but again, it wasn't really the selling point for me. So let's power it up and we'll have a look. So as I mentioned, I did order the survey cam, but it's going to be delayed until next week. So just for the sake of doing this test run and just to get an idea of the power, the sense of capability of it, I'm actually going to be working blind. I'm just going to have to do it by feel, but just to have something on camera. So the reason I stopped there is the vac is actually so powerful. I've got the wrong nozzle on for this type of job, and I can feel it actually sucking straight down onto it. So I'm going to switch that out. So all that was, you probably can't see it on the camera from here, is just a level edge, quite sharp that actually. So what you want is something that's got a bit of a bird's beak on it, because otherwise it's creating that vacuum and that seal. So this was probably for different types of jobs. I'll try something different. So this one, you can see it's cut at 45 degrees. So what it doesn't do is it doesn't create that, that seal, that vacuum seal, which is what you don't want really. So let's try it that way. So that was definitely a better nozzle or head to use. That's probably better. For the purpose of an unboxing, I'm quite happy. It feels solid. I'm curious. I want to get up and check and see what I managed to clear. I could feel and hear dirt coming down through the pipe, so it did something anyway. What I could do, I suppose, is check the drum here. We can check our yield and see what we did. Not too bad. It's all dry stuff. There's nothing wet in there anyway. That was an interesting test. So I did actually come across a scenario where I needed to change from this head to the 90-degree, which is why I purchased it, which was to get me across this extension here. But you probably can't see it from down here. There are spikes to keep birds out just on the edge, so the gutter vac is not really that effective in this case. But it was an example where I felt I needed a bit more than 5 meters on the hose, because when I went up there I could feel the hose pulling, and I also wanted to make the pole shorter because I'm on the roof. I'm just a meter away from the gutter line, really, at arm's length. So for this extension piece here, just 2 poles is enough, even one. I still have the 90-degree bend on it since I was up on the roof last. But yeah, I must say, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously, I haven't done a whole host of jobs yet using it, so I'll know more in a few weeks, and I think I'll report back. But for now, I think I'll leave it there. If you've any questions or any comments, just leave it below, and I'll address them as soon as I can. See you, folks. I actually stood on a frog coming back down. Okay, froggy. Fucking airplane. Jesus Christ. He's going to keep doing laps now.